We start with the banking crisis. It is spilling out of America. Last week, 2 US banks collapsed. It set off a chain reaction. Now another bank is on the brink. We are talking about global investment bank Credit Suisse. Yesterday, its share price tanked. It dropped by more than 30%. And this is a record low. The stock was worth less than 2 Swiss francs. That's a little over $2. And this fall is bigger than the Silicon Valley Bank because Credit Suisse is a much bigger bank. It is among the top 30 lenders in the world. And if this bank fails, the world economy will feel the impact much more than it already is feeling. So why is Credit Suisse in trouble? It started with the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank in the US. The episode alerted regulators. They began asking questions from banks, and this is happening across the world. The global banking system is under scrutiny. Credit Suisse was also under the lens, and it could not pass that test. Earlier this week, Credit Suisse made an admission. US regulators had posed some questions to this bank. They were inquiring about the bank's books, specifically the cash flow statements for 2019 and 2020. Now, what is a cash flow statement? It is a record of the money that comes in and goes out of the business. American regulators wanted to know about the cash flow of Credit Suisse, and the bank admitted that there were some lapses. Material weaknesses, that's the term they used. There were material weaknesses. And this was about how the bank reported its finances. There were lapses, and Credit Suisse released a statement. In fact, let me quote from that statement. As of December 31st, 2022, the group's internal control over financial reporting was not effective. Now, let me say this here. There is no indication that Credit Suisse reported incorrect numbers. This is more about the bank's internal processes, the checks and balances. Credit Suisse says they're not good enough. But this admission proved to be costly. You see, in the world of finance, even the hint of something being wrong can spark fears.
Well, I think with Credit Suisse, you've had a perfect storm. It started with SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, over the weekend, and then the Signature Bank failure. And Credit Suisse has experienced some of the same challenges that those banks have in terms of deposit withdrawals.
So that's how it all began. Credit Suisse was supposed to release its annual report. It was delayed, and yesterday it became worse. A major investor gave a virtual thumbs down to the bank. This is the Saudi National Bank. It is the biggest shareholder in Credit Suisse. Last year, it picked up a 9.8% stake. There was talk that the Saudis could invest more. But yesterday, the chairman of the Saudi National Bank dismissed the idea. He was asked about Credit Suisse and whether the Saudi bank will buy more shares. And this was his response. I'm quoting again. The answer is absolutely not, for many reasons. I will cite the simplest reason, which is regulatory and statutory. So basically, he's blaming regulation and more. And that statement triggered the nosedive. Shares tanked. At one point, it was trading below $2. Later in the day, the stock price recovered, but the troubles for Credit Suisse are far from over. There is a credibility crisis. The bank is trying hard to prove that it's not in trouble. It announced some radical decisions today. It has borrowed $54 billion from the Swiss Central Bank. What is this money for? To shore up the finances of Credit Suisse. And they do not really need this money, but they're playing safe. In case there are more withdrawals, they'll have enough cash to take care of it. The funding from the central bank is going to be useful. Also, Credit Suisse is repaying its debt in advance. It has plans to offer a buyback. What is a buyback? It is a form of borrowing where bonds are sold with an agreement to repurchase them at a later date. That is a buyback. The bank could settle loans worth $3 billion. The idea is to boost sentiment and to convey the message that all is well. And the Swiss Central Bank is helping in this. It says Credit Suisse is sound. Let me quote from their statement. Their statement about Credit Suisse, it says, it meets the capital and liquidity requirements imposed on systemically important banks. So if everything is sound, why is the bank making such aggressive moves? Why does it face the crisis of credibility? That's because of its record. Over the years, this bank has faced a host of scandals. In Bulgaria, it allowed drug dealers to launder money. In Mozambique, the bank faced a corruption case. Then there was a spying scandal. The bank snooped on its top executives. Last year, there was a massive data leak. And all these scandals led to losses. Credit Suisse has lost several clients. The bank was trying to regain lost confidence, but now people are betting on it to fail. This week, the bank's credit default swaps hit a record. Now, what is a credit default swap? It is an insurance against failing debt, but it can be used to make a bet too, a bet that the company might fail.
Credit Suisse has been a story that's been playing out for a number of years over time, but it's still generally a story of bad, corporate management, and investors are now focused on it, and people are thinking about counterparty risk as well as risky assets. And Credit Suisse is now kind of top of mind as people focus on banks within their portfolio and what they have exposure to.
The global banking sector is in panic mode. Investors are worried. The sentiment has changed. People now feel that banks are a risky investment. And they have good reasons to be afraid. And now let's talk about the world of artificial intelligence, or AI. It's moving at lightning speed. And its hero just acquired a new superpower. What are we talking about? ChatGPT. It can now see. Its parent company, OpenAI, has released GPT-4. It is the latest version of the super hit AI chatbot. Think of it as an update. Just like our phones get a software update, ChatGPT has got an update too. But before we talk about this update that's making waves, let's understand once again what ChatGPT is. This chatbot was launched in November last year. It has been used by millions of people since. In fact, it added 100 million new users, in just 2 months after its launch. And this is the fastest ever growth. No other app or software has grown its user base at this speed. And what does it do? It can answer questions using human-like language. It can also mimic writing styles. It has cracked college-level entrance exams and written poems. It has also written code and suggested marketing copy. Where does it get this information to do all of this? It culls data from the internet. Its database has information up to 2021, so a bit outdated, but useful nonetheless. And GPT-4, the new version, will take all of this to the next level. It has learned to be more precise and accurate. It can now respond to images. Look at this visual. You will see how it analyzes an image and gives paragraphs of description. Similarly, if you show it a picture of ingredients and ask for a recipe option, it will tell you. This feature can be useful for visually impaired people. It can also process up to 25,000 words. This is 8 times as many as the previous model used by ChatGPT. It also has more advanced reasoning skills. Think of it as an engine that can power chatbots, search engines, and even online tutors. And who can use this? Who can use GPT-4? As of now, it's available to ChatGPT users with a premium subscription. That's $20 a month. It's already powering Microsoft's Bing search engine. Morgan Stanley Wealth Management is using it to build an information system. An online education company will use it to build an automated tutor. And OpenAI does not plan to stop here. In the long term, it wants the system to juggle between different media like sound, video, text, and images. As you can tell, the update is clearly an improvement, and it also comes with the same baggage as ChatGPT. But it also comes with the same baggage as ChatGPT. OpenAI spent 6 months on the safety features of GPT-4, but it can still not be trusted completely. It might hallucinate, which is tech language for AI inventing facts or making errors. And GPT-4 is an expert on some subjects, but it completely lacks knowledge about others. It can also offer precise medical knowledge, while it makes errors in basic math. But companies part of the AI chatbot race will have to put up with this imprecision, simply because of the way they have bet their future on this technology, like Microsoft, that has invested $10 billion in OpenAI. Another reason is the speed at which AI is developing. It has made the world unpredictable. Experts are calling it a tectonic shift, almost as crucial as the creation of web browsers in the 1990s. And OpenAI is not alone in the shift. Tech giants like Google and Meta are also working towards this goal. They're building their own chatbots and AI technology. This technology is at the cusp of changing work as we know it. It's exciting. It's also scary. Is AI coming for our jobs? There is disruption for sure. Some jobs might go, others might be created. Hopefully, we don't have to worry because even the most impressive technology complements workers. But there are other risks too. This phase is seeing extremely powerful technology. And if we can learn one thing from history, it is that tech will be used for both good and evil. Ultimately, which direction this goes in lies in the hands of the companies that are developing it. So are they being transparent in where they get their information from? Are they policing the sources? What about the government? Will they be able to move quickly and establish legal guardrails for this kind of development? Looking at the government's experience with social media policies gives us an idea, and it's not very encouraging. But this can be seen as a cautionary tale. So we do better this time, because the worst risks could be the ones we can't even anticipate yet. Of course, the world does not have all the solutions right now, but one thing is undisputed. GPT-4 is a big step forward. Every short and accurate response by the technology is a giant leap for mankind. Stink is in the Parisian air, and the city of love is holding its nose. What are we talking about? The cobblestone streets of Paris are overflowing with garbage bins, more than 7,000 tons of it. Some piles of this foul-smelling rubbish are taller than pedestrians trying to avoid it. But why is the French capital stinking? For over a week, garbage workers in Paris and other parts of France have been on strike. They are protesting against President Emmanuel Macron's pension plan. It aims to raise the age of collecting government pension from 62 to 64. And it could become a law this week. And why is the government determined to force this plan? Why are workers across France pushing back? Also, what will become of this protest? Our next report tells you.
Spring is usually a magical time to visit Paris. But maybe not this year. A heady mix of love and foul smell is in the air. Garbage has become a smelly symbol of public outrage in France. Mounds of waste have piled up in Paris. They're blocking doorways. They're ornating the banks of the Seine and choking the roads leading up to the Eiffel Tower. But this scenario is not limited to Paris. Other cities like Nantes, Rennes and Le Havre are also affected. For over a week now, garbage workers in many parts of France have been on strike. They're protesting against the pension reform. President Emmanuel Macron plans to raise the age of collecting a government pension to 64 from the existing 62. After 2 months of political debates, the garbage workers are pushing back. And as they adorn the City of Lights with heaps of garbage, their work, or the lack of it, can be seen all over. There are large protests as the showdown over the bill heads towards a climax. The Senate adopted the bill this morning.
Résultat du scrutin.
The results are 345 voters, voted 307, voted for 193, against 114. The Senate has adopted the pension reform bill.
The bill has now moved to the lower house. There are some big questions as its fate remains uncertain. Leftists and far-right lawmakers are strongly opposed, while conservatives are divided. But what about the French president? He considers it crucial to make the economy competitive. Will he be able to garner enough support? And if Macron can't get a majority vote, will he force it through his constitutional authority? But why does he want to impose the unpopular legislation? You see, France is on course to run a deficit, so he wants workers to put more money into the system. And France is not the only European country facing economic challenges. There is widespread unrest across Western Europe. Teachers, doctors, and public transport staff are protesting in Britain. They're demanding higher wages to match the rising prices. Meanwhile, Spain has raised its social security costs for higher wage earners, calling it a historic deal to save the pension system. But coming back to the French, they enjoy one of the most generous retirement systems. It provides a golden, lengthy third stage of life. They see it as a way to rest after a lifetime of labor. But there's a crack in the system, at least according to the government. While current workers continue to pay for the pension of retirees, people are living longer and the number of pensioners is growing. This can cause long-term deficits. But what are the people of France saying?
Unfortunately, this social democracy was not sufficiently listened to. We were never in a warlike logic. We are in a logic of social conflict that is rooted and won't disappear tomorrow.
We will get it out. We are going to go all the way. We can't let it go. I've been working in the sewers for 38 years. It is impossible. So if they don't get it, we'll keep going and going until the end, until we stop it.
Even if the reform goes through passes, the inequality gaps, especially for women, will be present. So we must indeed be on the street and always ready to fight this reform.
They oppose this system for a number of reasons. There is no immediate threat of bankruptcy. They say Macron has ignored other ways of increasing funding. Why can't he just tax the wealthy? Deficit threat or not, we say that's a good question to ponder over. Many also say the garbage workers have a lower life expectancy as compared to business executives. So for them, 2 years is a lot. Others see this as a threat to their values. They're calling it a denial of democracy.
Of course, we will respect the law and we will respect the vote if there is one. That does not mean that we will approve the law.
While the debate continues, few people think this bill will be pulled back. With over 7,000 tons of garbage on the roads and the threat of rats and infection looming large, we don't know whether the protests will continue if this becomes a law. But one thing is sure, the garbage stink will haunt the Macron government. The voters could punish his party in next year's European Parliament elections. If the government continues to turn their nose to the foul smell of this protest, the ramifications could leave a bitter aftertaste on the ballot.
Tu l'as vu